As a writer, have you ever felt like you've hit a plateau? That you're getting 6 out of 10, sometimes 7, but you can't quite make that leap to a point where you're going to get attention from the industry and you might get an agent or a manager. Well, in today's film, I'm going to share a case study of a client who I've been working with who has done exactly that. He's gone from a 6 out of 10 to an actual 8 out of 10 on the blacklist, and he's just registered his first competition win. So how did that happen? INCEL, let's get stuck in. So Christopher contacted me after seeing one of my YouTube vids where I put out a call to read a client's first 10 pages in return for audio notes. I give audio notes, I don't give anyone written notes. He said that he felt he'd reached a plateau. I feel like I am on the verge, but for some reason I'm finding it challenging to break through. I hope a professional like yourself can identify the shortcomings of my material so I can improve. We're going to unpack his first 10 pages. We're going to do a before and after on his logline. And then we're also going to look at one of the key things that he fixed, a particular scene, a character introduction, which I think is a textbook case of how you can bump up your character writing and the scoring of your entire script. So you can move from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. This is the actual audio file I sent him.
Christopher, how are you doing? Thank you for sending me INCEL. It's an exceptional title. You feel the ghost of Travis Bickle haunting this whole 10 pages from Taxi Driver. You could tell that movie from Jodie Foster's perspective of her being stalked by Travis Bickle, and that's what you've got here.
Come on, man. Just get me out of here, all right?
It's Taxi Driver as the bad guy. I think you've got to look at your logline, which is suboptimal. It's very hard to unpack it. Too many words. After a chance encounter as his rideshare passenger, an aspiring social media influencer, okay, in desperate need of followers, not really necessary, must survive the relentless pursuits of an obsessed involuntary celibate. I mean, it doesn't even mention that he's a taxi driver. There's too many words. What are you trying to say? Do you need to say he's an involuntary celibate? I'd have to see the whole script to know what the optimum logline is, but social media influencer, INCEL taxi driver, it's a stalker movie, fantastic.
So Christopher's first logline had 41 words. I could see the idea, I love the concept, but he wasn't expressing it and writing it in a way that made it sound enticing. So he had a second stab at it. An aspiring social media influencer in desperate need of followers must survive the relentless pursuits of an obsessed rideshare driver willing to do whatever it takes to make her his girlfriend. And how many words are we down to now? It's 30. If there were 30 impactful words and there wasn't any fat on it, then it would be okay. This is what I suggested.
What you want is a logline that implies conflict or even better, some irony. I'm not the king of loglines, but I think we can simplify it. There's just way too many words here. Something like publicity-hungry social media influencer unwittingly attracts the attention of an obsessive taxi driver who wants to make her his girlfriend. So that implies irony in that she's looking for publicity but unwittingly attracts the attention of. You can probably batter it around a bit.
The first time I knew that Christopher had cracked the logline was when I got this email from the Blacklist. So the Blacklist, you pay for reviews. I'm sure a lot of you have used it. If you get an 8 out of 10, you're included in the weekly email to agents and producers. And look at this logline now. An attention-seeking social media influencer, good, unwittingly attracts an incel who will stop at nothing to make her his girlfriend. And what's interesting is that in various conversations I had with him, notes are saying, you need to say he's a taxi driver. And then we were getting wound up, oh, he's not just a taxi driver, he's a rideshare driver. And all this extra fat, where in fact, you just want the hit of here's the title, here's the movie. And there's nothing else needed. And now we're 20 words, and every single one of them is on point.
Let's just look at the broad sweep of these 10 pages. Exterior West Hollywood establishing Saturday night, lose establishing. Right for the camera, but never right the camera shots. Series of shots, watcher's POV. So you've got the best part of a page before anything happens. You need to get cracking within a third of a page. So if you look at all your West Hollywood visuals, choose 3. We're dealing in suboptimal adjectives. Tall, blonde, a rowdy group of frat boys, they should be caps. To see girls with daddy issue shake their titties. European tourist gets suckered into Saddle Ranch while somebody's mum rides the mechanical bull is a great line. Punk chicks in Doc Mark and smoke cigarettes outside the whiskey. Pack of USC sorority sluts. There you go. You're gonna get red carded.
Oh, the referee right to the sideline official.
It's male gaze shit.
The whole issue of the male gaze is a complex subject, which almost requires its own video.
It's pretty impressive, Sam.
Double pump?
It squirts the fuel in so you can go faster.
Oh. I like to go faster.
Let's just look at what Christopher, how he reacted to my notes, my criticisms of his script, that essentially that all the characters were objectified, particularly the women. And he wrote back to me after he received his audio notes. So my intention was for the women to be objectified and the men to be loathsome, because that's how Roger perceives the world. I was afraid that the material would come across as you interpreted, which is completely understandable, that I, as the writer, hold these views. Since it's not clear that the views on the page are segregated from my own, I wonder if I should state it explicitly that this is Roger's worldview, or write it in a way that is less offensive. And that's exactly what I suggested to him. And he has now implemented in his rewrite. He makes it clear that at the beginning, it's the eyes of this man. And I think he could go even further, actually. We've got some very strong images here, but we've got 7 of them. And this is an example. If you put 7 good things in, it actually makes it worse than 3 good things. Christopher is also a director. So he's describing what he would see and the shots that he would put in a movie. So if you were to take all these shots, you could probably do this in 20 seconds, 3 seconds for each image, 25 seconds. But as a read, I've got to read and unpack and decipher all of this language into images. You've got to respect the reader's time. If I'm reading all of this, I'm thinking if the whole script is overwritten like this and that he's writing 7 descriptions when I only need 3, then this is going to be a long night for me reading.
And what is your opening image? The image that telegraphs what this story is about. So if it's about somebody watching somebody else, like voyeurism, do you start with the male gaze? Think how you can encapsulate your theme in 3 sentences, and everything else is excess. Interior car continuous. I never use the word continuous. I don't know why people use it. I think it's in some screenwriting Bible, but if a scene happens after a previous scene, it's continuing. Plus, you've got a cut to, which suggests that that is a separate time, that time elapses, so it can't be continuous. And when you say things like a hand enters frame, we are close on, all of this sort of stuff, it just takes us out of the read. Tell the story via imagery, write what the camera can see, but write it in a way that you're not getting in the way of the story. For the first time we see our driver, we don't need to say we see. Any we sees, I'm not a fan of it. Look at the description of Roger. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to describe Roger. All of them are surface. It's about, is he good looking? Is he ugly? Is he adjacent? Is he gay? Is he a twink? Is he like women? I know nothing about him. It's wasted real estate, mate. This doesn't give us anything. He nods, smiles at Dan, who climbs into the back seat. This is very vanilla. This is Clint Eastwood from 1975. How does he nod?
Man's got to know his limitations.
Roger pulls out of line, merges with traffic on the strip. Why is this important? Why are you expending my time to tell us this stuff? Dan sort of, pulls out a baggie of white powder and snorts a line. We don't need all this pink fingernail. It's nice imagery, but what does it do? Now, the interesting thing is Roger focused on this driving, detached from the illicit activity in the back seat. That's the point. But we spent a page and a half just to establish that here's a driver who will turn a blind eye to people who are tooting in the back of his cab. So 2 beauties, right, again. So every single character that we've had is described in terms of their physical attractiveness. Doe eyes, full lips, high cheekbones.
Oh, God, I can't even tell you how much I'm not your little bunny.
2 models lounge in the back seat, something like that. rather than two beauties are in the back seat. Give us a verb there. Rolls her eyes. That's tropey. If you ever see that, hunt and destroy, remove that description. So this is all kind of interesting. It's warm-up stuff. And I think the match cut is probably warranted. It is a camera move, but I think that's fine. By the way, what kind of car are we in? His car, the type of car, is very important. It's a character, it's him. This description here could be cut by 50%. 3 black dudes are chilling in the car. The one homie in the seat behind Roger. Why do we need to know that he's in the seat behind Roger? In Christopher's head, he's so into his movie, he's seeing it. Right, this guy's here, but the reader doesn't need to know it. It's not crucial information. So you don't need to know. They're all in the back seat. Behind Roger, you don't need this. 3 black dudes are chilling in the car. One homie, little bit of a description, goes straight into his dialogue. The 2 men in the back explode with, why do we need in the back? We know they're in the back. And, you know, you could call him homie 2, prompts him to deliver the punchline. What was the point? Matter of fact, this is overwriting. At this, the homies cannot contain themselves. They shriek and cackle like wild hyenas. This is just over-egged. You could cut this down by 50% and, you know, we could go a lot deeper on this. But the important thing is, we don't need to know that he's sitting next to the other. We just said they're in the back seat. You don't need to know that. When you visualize a movie as a writer, what you're doing is you're playing the projector in your head. You see the movie first, and this projector plays, turning words into images. That's how you should be thinking. Whereas you have conceived the whole thing and can see this shot by shot by shot, the reader does not need to know all of it. The movie that needs to play in the reader's head is not the same that you see. You need to cut down. What do you put in? What do you leave out? The advice when you pack for a holiday is you put everything you need on your bed and then halve it. And I think the same is for screenwriting. Think about everything you can see and then think, right, how do I get rid of half of it? I will do a video on this because I've read like 100 scripts, more than 100 scripts in the last couple of months. And particularly people overwrite telling us about the movements of the actors rather than scene actions. There are ways, which I will go into, that you can use movement of the characters to show conflict and drama. That's not just scene blocking. It's not just actors moving around the stage, because that's very important when it comes to the shooting. Your focus puller needs to know that that actor is going to move from there to there, or will turn to the light, or any of that, but we don't need to know that now. You write down those kind of things in the script, and so many of us are doing it. You're overwriting and you're wasting the reader's time. The art of writing is thinking, well, if I lose all this description here, will the movie still play for the reader? And here's another one, Carlata, in the rear seat, her back to us. Look, that's important for Christopher. That's how he's going to shoot it. You know, is it important that it's got the back to us? I don't think so. But a girl straddles a guy's lap. His hands rub over her body. She moans as she slowly, look, she grinds, get rid of adverbs, tugs at his brown leather belt. They kiss passionately. There's too many, in the words of Amadeus, when the emperor doesn't like Amadeus's music, and Amadeus says, well, what's wrong with it? And he doesn't know what to say. So he says,
too many notes. I don't understand. There are just as many notes, Majesty, as are required, neither more nor less.
Well, my dear young man, don't take it too hard. Your work is ingenious. It's quality work. And there are simply too many notes. That's all. Just cut a few and it'll be perfect.
Which few did you have in mind, Majesty?
It's about proportionality. That at this point of the script, where you're trying to engage a reader, you cannot be expending real estate using 4 lines where one single line will do it. All of these visuals need to be seen, I would suggest, through the eyes of the main character. How does it make him feel if he's sexually frustrated, if he has to drive people around? And that's going on in the back. And we're missing that. We're missing his eyes. We're missing his eyes at the beginning of the movie. His eyes are everything. Essentially, if you were to look at the 7 deadly sins and say, well, what is Roger's major sin? Well, there's 2 of them. He's lust and envy. He envies all these passengers who are having a sex life and he's not having one. And certainly this is on target to show his resentment and that boiling up, but we don't have that. He's just a blank slate driving, and I think you need to sometimes show a little bit of that. But that's a creative decision. Christopher may not want to go down there, but that was my instinct.
So we're on page 4, and we just had a whole load of vignettes. The freshest pop song fills the space. And again, we're watching her slip into a tight-fitting dress, so we're objectifying her body and making her look sexy. What is the most characterful introduction that we can have for Stasi? And getting dressed is not it, I don't think.
It certainly helps if you have a character and you introduce them at their most characterful. So that's something I live and die by. And that's the advice I give all my clients. And I think it's the key to creating a good character, because if you can't introduce each character at their most characterful, and you can't think of a scene that shows them at the most characterful, the chances are you haven't created a good character. I try not to be invasive with my notes, but because I am a YouTuber, I thought I'd share some specific notes and suggestions on what Christopher could do.
If she's an influencer, how would you introduce her and show us? You know, I'm not saying she's on a YouTube channel, but maybe she is. Maybe she's in a studio and she's got her soft lights on, and maybe she's pimping some product out. I mean, think of 100 ways that you could introduce her as an influencer, not just climbing into a skin-tight dress.
I think it's the sign of a good writer that you can get a note and make it your own and run with it. And let's have a look at the rewrite scene where Christopher introduced Stasi, who's no longer getting into skinny jeans and tight dresses. She has agency. Drop in on an Instagram live video. Okay, so this is an influencer. Stasi, 21, in front of us, lavender backdrop, a glow in buttery light. Now we're talking. Her dark hair is swept into gentle layers around her contoured face. She applies red lip gloss over puckered lips. Ladies, I absolutely love this lip gloss by Numi, and I'm sure you will too. It's called Cherry Bomb. Behind the scenes, so what he does is he shows us the glamour and the gloss, and then you realize that she's faking it, that she's using a bike helmet, headlamp, as a key light, a scarf draped over a lamp as a fill, and her lavender backdrop is just a bedsheet tacked to the wall. And what he's done is he's introduced Stasi at her most characterful. Then, we've got to know her, she interacts with her sister, which I think is smart. So, you know, we're meeting her via our lead's eyes. So Catherine, an adorable dark-haired 5-year-old, sits cross-legged on the edge of the bed, admiring her big sis. Can you see that? I can see that. I can actually see that character. I can see that moment. 21 watchers is 3 more than last time. I think what you meant is a 16% increase in viewership. So not only are we introducing the sister, but we're getting more character out of Stasi. We're getting her whole attitude, which is very positive, and she's funny. Catherine, this is the mum we're going to get onto. The joy in Catherine's little face evaporates as she hops from the bed and traipses from the room. Bye, kitty cat. That scene is Paige, and we already know what she is, what Stasi does, her life view, very positive. And also I think this establishes a sympathy for a social media influencer at a time where social media influencers, certainly now in the age of the biggest recession in history, the idea of people swanning around and getting millions for being brand ambassadors, you've got to make sure that people will relate to your hero. The other thing that this scene does is it sets up her flaw, which is she's seeking attention. And this is about an attention-seeking social media influencer who attracts the unwanted attention of a psycho incel. So in terms of sins, it's not a deadly sin. It's not like lust or greed or, you know, any of these mortal sins that are going to get you sent to hell. It's a venial sin maybe. And also it's a very sympathetic thing. You take a slight flaw and then the story punishes that flaw. And this is her flaw. So I love this scene. I chucked a couple of half-baked ideas, which is what I like to do. I don't want to impose what I would do with it. I just want to trigger my clients to get the kind of idea that could work. And if it's not that, it might trigger something else. Christopher, well done, mate. And I think this is one of the reasons why the character of Stasi works. It's a vast improvement on a female character who's gorgeous, just getting into a tight-fitting dress. And I think by showing her as broke, and the next scene particularly, you really, really like her, she's trying to escape.
Apartment, living room, continuous. Cut the continuous. Tanya is slouched across the busted brown vinyl couch and watches TV with this week's scumbag of a boygrand. Look again at Tanya. Her pretty face looks a decade older than 38 years. Our girl in black heels, she crosses the space quickly. Quickly, that's a suboptimal adverb. Get rid of most adverbs. She marches out, she parades out, she staggers, she stumbles, she totters. Give us an active verb. So she scoots across the room, but not quick enough to avoid Scumbag's stare. Well, lose the well on dialogue. Any wells, listens, ums and ahs, yeah, we use them in real dialogue, but cut them out of screen dialogue. The microwave dings, don't worry, I got it. She draws back the film and places the tray on the table in front of Catherine, an adoring 5-year-old with black hair like her big sister. It's really hard to see it. She squats at eye level and speaks softly, adverb. Just she squats at eye level and whispers, dinner is served, your majesty. That covers it. The little girl smiles as big sis drapes a paper towel across her lap. She looks at her, reminisces on the neglect she experienced when she was that age. Cheat, cut it. One day I'm going to take you away from here and we'll live happily ever after. Does that sound good? Is a bit tropey. Find a way that she can say that without literally saying it on the nose. With a big baby blues. I don't know what that means. Catherine looks at her big sister and nods. Look at some of your word choices here, Christopher. Looks. There are 100 words to say look, and if you write look, generally it's suboptimal. She looks at her, reminisces, and then the next sentence, looks at her big sister, nodding, looking, shrugging, all this stuff is vanilla. Upgrade your words, upgrade your syntax. Okay, eat up, and when you're all done, you can sleep in my bed. She kisses her baby sister on the cheek, then heads for the door. The wandering eye and a raised eyebrow, we're micromanaging the movements of the actors. So this happens a lot of people do this. If you were directing this, Christopher, you'd say, right, I want you to just, give her a look or whatever. But if you put it on the page, it's just marking time. 21 or not, you better be back before sunup. I will. Her mother stares her up and down, a blend of disapproval and envy. That's a nice line. You got to attract the wrong kind of people dressed like that. I've noticed is an absolute banger of a line. She closes the door behind her, not interesting, as tiny elbows scump in the ribs when she sees his slack jaw. That's no. I've noticed. She slams the door. End the scene on some propulsive action, I would suggest. But there's overwriting there. Apartment, almost midnight. Continuous, page 6, cut that continuous. She slides into the seat. Holy shit, she's fucking gorgeous. There you go again, mate. We are objectifying the actress.
I'd like to go faster.
Piercing blue eyes, that rules out most actresses. Stacey's Stasi. Oh, sorry about that. So top of 7, lose the O. No worries, it happens all the time. This is a bit chit-chatty. Robbie Tatsiam starts the ride. Don't think I've ever met a Stasi, probably short for anything. Cut the R. She nods, suboptimal, boring. 2 beats of silence, you're micromanaging the movie. Roger searches, can we say searches? Can we struggles to keep it going? Where are you heading tonight? Friend of a friend's party. Fun, we'll see. Bit skeptical? Wasn't up for going out. When I get there, I'll be fine. This is all... Cut this down. There's 3 lines. You probably only need 1. She spots the rabbit's foot that dangles from his keychain. I used to have one of those things. What's that? A lucky rabbit's foot. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. I actually made this one. Her eyebrows raised. That's what I call marionetting. It's where we're like the puppet master and we're pulling the strings of the actor's eyebrows or their face.
There are no strings on me.
Her eyebrows raise is not a great one. Give her a line of action. Is that the point where she folds her arms defensively without saying defensively? I'm a taxidermist. Cut well. I dabble. It's my passion. I love how I can capture the end. This is all good stuff. Is that what you do besides driving is a bit of a dead question. SEO, if she was an influencer, she'd probably know what SEO is because every time she posts something, it has to be search engine optimized unless she's a clueless influencer. Stasi tries, always cut out the words tries and use fights, struggles. Just say Stasi's eyes, rather than begin to drift back out the window, you could just say Stasi's eyes drift out of the window and then you know that covers tries to maintain interest but her eyes begin to drift. Roger takes notice, just cut that. What I'm really wanting is working on an app that pairs with Instagram to automate posting and help build followers. She turns back to Orleans, her interest peak. Cut that. Really covers that. Gleefully surprised, cut that line.
A lot of scripts that I read, the description says something, how they're feeling, and then they use the dialogue, which does exactly the same thing. The dialogue can carry a lot of your descriptions, which is why a lot of descriptions are completely not needed.
Now, when you have characters asking questions, we're on page 9, you can? Yes. If you ask a question, 9 times out of 10, don't answer it with a yes or a no. You can? I need to build my following if I want to make any real money. Is it? This language, I'm only at 40,000 followers right now. I think it's a little bit on the nose. It could be more quirky. Would somebody of this age say, I need to build my following if I ever want to make any real money? Now, that's the truth of the situation. You know, but how would she say it if you were translating it into her type of speech? You know, now this is not it, but I need to smash my following if I'm going to get any close to, you know, what is it? What is the language she'd use? I'm not going to try and write it, Christopher, but think about it. Roger looks at her in the rear view, completely floored. This is over. Don't need that. Cut. Page 9. Well, I need 60,000 more if I want to get a sponsor. Cut out the well. You can do it. Cut out the half beat. You can do anything you set your mind to. Is overly tropey. That's Back to the Future and 100 other movies.
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Don't take no for an answer is bland. If you want it, make it yours is better. Pick a target and go for it is the best one. Actually, that's a good line. And that's him, isn't it? He's a targeting insult.
Hi. I'd like to volunteer.
Why?
Why? Because I think that you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
The taxi driver is looking for a target.
The less he says, the better. Thanks. Those are great words to live by. It's a bit, can she not just say great words to live by? And then you've got the ambiguity of like, yeah, anybody can say that, but to actually live it is different. So see if you can introduce subtext so characters aren't just saying what they're thinking. Stasy's phone buzzes. She places it to an ear. I mean, you just need to say, Stasy picks up a call. Hey, yeah, I'm almost there, pulling up now. Hollywood Hills house. Lose continuous, top of 10. Roger turns his car into the driveway of the massive house, squeezes by the line of exotics. What are exotics? Are they people? Or are these cars? The car sweeps its headlights across the congregation of a dozen or more 20-somethings trickling into the party. Can you visualize this? Turns his car into the driveway of a massive house, full stop. Baseline thumps through the metal chassis of the car. She's waving to Kaylin. Creamy cocoa complexion. So then you've specifically put out a casting thing that somebody has to have a creamy cocoa complexion and a Colgate smile. I mean, it is a memorable description, but it's not inclusive of a lot of actresses. It doesn't actually say anything about the character. It's just a physical description. So have a think about that. How to get in touch with you, false. Okay, don't forget about me. I won't. Drags her away. Watches as their toned legs stride into the house. I think you need to say that. Basically, he is leching, but in a way that doesn't make it look like we're leching. I think this is a good meet cute. It is a direct descendant of Taxi Driver, but then Joker is a direct descendant of King of Comedy. So listen, mate, I'd need to see the whole of this to take stock of it. I'd need to see how your twists turn, how this Uber driver from hell movie plays out, but it's got potential.
I have to say that Christopher has been a brilliant client to work with. We then went for the full deep dive on the whole script, and he went away and did what many writers don't do, which is he really got stuck in. And he concentrated on fixing the big picture errors, the deal breakers. So let's look at the evaluation and see what the Blacklist liked about Christopher's script and the rewrite. Good score across the board, but I would like to bring your attention to a really unfortunate thing that sometimes they do on the Blacklist, that this script reviewer, for whatever reason, has decided to create his or her logline of Christopher's movie. And it's nowhere nearly as good as Christopher's logline. He's gone for the lonely rideshare driver. Is he lonely? A lustful relationship. Sounds like that's two-way, and it isn't. That is a terrible logline. At least they didn't use that one when they mailed out around the town. The concise cinematic writing keeps the pages turning all the way to the end, and the endearing relationship between Stasi and Catherine that secures a reader's empathy for the former, a social media influencer, sympathy, empathy. What's the takeaway on weaknesses? Where are the actionable notes here? And I think that, you know, the blacklist is about buying access with a couple of notes thrown in. It's not a viable way of understanding what's wrong with your scripts. And I've mentioned before, I've sold a script on the blacklist to Scorsese's producer. He spotted I got a 9 out of 10 for a script, and he bought one of my scripts. So I'm not beating up on the blacklist, but where are the actionable notes? If we go back to what Christopher's goal, which was he'd hit a plateau and he was getting 6 and 7s and he wanted to get an 8. Well, he did that. But it wasn't just with the blacklist. And he's won the fade-in competition, and he's just sent me this note here. As a result of the win in the fade-in competition, INCEL is currently being read by Leverage Management, which I think I recall is Mark Wahlberg's company, and is a very serious, well-heeled and well-connected management company. And that's how it's done. You take a script that has a good premise, but it's not quite there, and then you absolutely deep dive it. You push all the descriptions, you reduce the amount of words you need, you make it as good as possible, and you also look at the big structural notes. In particular, things like introducing characters at their most characterful. And then you enter it into a competition. Then you send it to the blacklist, and instead of getting 6 out of 10 and wasting all your money, you get a win. You get 8 out of 10. Then you win a competition, and then you get read by a manager. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Christopher. A lot of writers, a lot of you are thinking, how do I get an agent? How do I get a rep? And I made a video about it. Check it out. And one of the key things I identified is win a script competition. And they're not a lottery if you can write an 8 out of 10 script. On YouTube, most of my audience is writers, aspiring writers. But on LinkedIn, I'm connected with some very interesting financiers, agents, producers, attorneys, and other people who work in creative fields. I am going to put this on LinkedIn, and if you are a producer looking for a movie that could be made for a price, then think about INCEL. Look at the logline and imagine, can you see INCEL playing on Netflix? The title gets your attention for the beginning. It's a brilliant title. It's a brilliant logline now. I think it's a cracking concept that you could shoot even if social distancing continues. It's something that you could get a very small crew together in a bubble and shoot it guerrilla style and put it out on VOD, on iTunes, on Netflix, on Amazon, and make a very good return. I can't believe there isn't a movie called INCEL. So that's the story of how Christopher and I worked together to take his brilliant concept and pretty good script to start with. Let's be clear, it was 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 in many areas, but how he took the notes and then added a lot of his own sauce. And he executed many things that I didn't even pick him up on. And he was working, his mind was switched on to making this the most readable and visceral experience for the reader, and it certainly is now. So thank you, Christopher, for allowing us to share your script and your notes. And I hope everyone has found this useful, and there are some nuggets that you can pull out that will help you in the writing of your own scripts. Remember to introduce a character at their most characterful. Remember that you need to take only 50% of your luggage, your visual luggage. Put out everything you can see, divide it in half. That's your movie. You're only trying to make the movie play for the reader. So learn to distinguish between what is necessary for the final film and what is necessary for the gatekeeper, the producer, the agent who you need to impress. Your responsibility is to help them see it and feel it. And if you give them a good read, they will give you an 8 out of 10. Don't write big budget stuff. Write a contained story with really good characters and a strong hook and a killer title. And don't micromanage the actors with eyebrows raising and looks and nods and shrugs. And once you learn to eliminate what is not necessary, if you've got the good stuff on the page already, what will be left is this shining 8 out of 10 thriller, which is exactly what Christopher has now created.
Hello, I'm Christopher Burgart, the writer of INCEL. I cannot fully express what a pleasure it was working with Dominic from beginning to end. It's so refreshing to meet somebody who delivers exactly what they promised. His audio notes are invaluable, especially when compared to written notes. There's nothing better than to hear somebody read your writing and give you that real-time feedback. As you saw and heard in the video, Dominic's notes are pointed and unvarnished, and that's exactly what I needed to help elevate my material. And the result speaks for itself. If you're a writer looking to improve your work, I cannot recommend more highly Dominic and his services. It was so rewarding and validating to get that positive evaluation on the Blacklist, then to win the Fade-In Scriptwriting Competition. So Dominic, thank you.
Scriptfella, out.